Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Dibdib mo'y buhay, lupang hinirang, tuwid ka na magiting, sa manlulog, di ka pasisingin, sa dagat at puno, sa simoy, sa langit mo paghaw, may dilag ang tulak, awit sa patayang pinamahal, ang islap ng wataw at mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niyang kailan, may di magdidinig.
So before we start our agenda this morning, there are a few online etiquettes that we should all apply during the program. So first, avoid distractions with host speakers and of course the audience. Firstly, kindly mute yourselves or put your microphone on mute to avoid background noises. When you want to ask a question, the Q&A will be open later. So participants, only ask questions during the Q&A session. Kindly also turn off your camera, especially if the background is distracting. And kindly, if to open your camera, wear appropriate attire. And of course, please be attentive and listen well to this webinar. Thank you. Now to welcome us all in today's webinar, may we have the Assistant Vice President for Academic Support Services, Mr. Charles Roy P. Baguio.
Our esteemed Guidance Director, Dr. Elita Cui, our guests, Dr. Jasmine Peralta, Mr. Venus Hayes Campanilla II, and Ms. Elena Beatriz Sabelio Ramas, our USPF guidance officers, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The war against illegal drugs and drug abuse has to continue to be waged at various fronts in the personal and societal level. However, the problem on illegal drugs is not just a police or criminality problem, but is a far-reaching and more complicated one, being also a health problem and a humanitarian problem. This year's Drug Awareness and Prevention Celebration theme, addressing drug challenges in the health and humanitarian crisis, does not only speak of facing this problem at this time of pandemic, but also of the other facets wherein drug abuse has become a social menace, a social cancer, if we borrow the popular phrase in Dr. Jose Rizal's novel, that is eating up the fiber of society and affecting not only those engaged in drug abuse or selling, but victimizes also the people who are not into drugs. Millions of Filipinos are directly engaged in this addiction, but the threat that it poses affects everyone in this country, making it indeed a humanitarian crisis, as family members and neighbors are affected by this widespread problem, which I believe takes more toll on human lives, health, property, and security than the COVID-19 virus itself. The dangers and ill effects of drug abuse must be ingrained in the heart and mind of every Filipino. And the campaign has to reach out to as many Filipinos as can be. The government, through the Department of Health, the police, and the local government units, as well as non-government organizations and individual anti-drug crusaders, have exerted much effort to win the fight. But the battle rages on. How many more human lives, relationships, families, and dreams need to be ruined due to drug addiction? How many crimes will further be committed, properties lost, or health that will be gradually degraded, and values that are eroded? Could you just afford to just sit down and watch as someone in the family or somebody close to you is gradually eaten up by this cancer or is about to fall into it? Would you allow the quality of your life and all you have worked for a better future crumble due to a mere mind-altering substance that gives hallucinations and fleeting excitement? Or would you choose to do something about it? The world needs more good, strong, and courageous people who could say no to the temptations of drugs that have been taken by some as a temporary refuge or flight from their problems, or a way to feel that they belong to their band of bad influence peers, or the wrong notion that they appear cool, or simply out of me. Sorry, I have been unmuted. Sorry. Was I muted right from the very start?
No, sir, you were not muted from the start, just the middle lang, sir.
Okay. So I would go back to the middle part.
Yes, yes.
Sorry for that. I don't know what happened. So how many more human lives, relationships, families, and dreams need to be ruined due to drug addiction? How many crimes will further be committed, properties lost, or health that will be gradually degraded, and values that are eroded? Could you just afford to just sit down and watch as someone in the family or somebody close to you is gradually eaten up by this cancer or is about to fall into it? Would you allow the quality of your life and all you have worked for, a better future, crumble due to a mere mind-altering substance that gives hallucinations and fleeting excitement? Or would you choose to do something about it? The world needs more good, strong, and courageous people who could say no to the temptations of drugs that have been taken by some as a temporary refuge or flight from their problems, or a way to feel that they belong to their band of bad influence peers, or the wrong notion that they appear cool or simply out of mere curiosity. This problem has little regard to age or gender and has its far-reaching network of syndicates that are difficult to uproot. But hope is always there, and today's webinar intends to expose illegal drugs as the evil that it truly is. A piece of advice: never try going into drugs while you are still not into it. You have so much more to lose than gain if there is any real gain to talk about. Don't waste your life. You only have one. Let God, your family, relatives, friends, and values be your refuge in times of grief and trouble. And don't let illegal drugs have its grip on you. Welcome to this morning's Drug Awareness and Prevention webinar. Take into heart what you will hear and see and act positively about it. Again, a pleasant morning to all of you.
Thank you, Sir Charles, for the warm and insightful welcome to our students. Now, to give us a short message in today's webinar, we have the Chief of Hospital 2 of the Department of Health, Treatment and Rehabilitation Center for Women in Cebu City. May I call Dr. Jasmine T. Peralta.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doctor. Can hear you.
Morning, everyone. A blessed morning to all the participants in today's webinar. First and foremost, I'd like to say good morning to the President, Attorney Paulino Yabao of the USPF. Of course, the one who gave us the opening remarks, Mr. Charles Baguio, the AVP for Academic Support Services, Dr. Ernesto Alolor, the VP for Academic Affairs, and also Dr. Elita Cui and the staff of the Guidance and Testing Services Center. To all the students and faculty of the elementary, secondary, and tertiary education of USPF, our esteemed resource speakers, our My Cebu TRC family, the Education and Advocacy Committee led by Dr. Jane Giselle, the IT staff who are also helping us out with this webinar, and everyone here joining us this morning. A pleasant morning to all. We know with the Department of Health, Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, we partner with other stakeholders, especially with schools, for us to be able to do one of our mandates is to provide technical assistance with regards to the advocacy and educating, especially the students in the prevention of drug addiction. So for today's activity, we have the theme, Sana All. Wow, ang life without drugs. So wow na wow talaga ang life pag walang drugs. Bakit nga ba wow? Siguro W, walang problema pag walang drugs, di ba? O, okay na okay ang buhay, okay na okay ang performance pag walang drugs. And W, wishes nyo ay matutupad pag walang drugs. So, my dear students, we should always remember that prevention is better than cure. We all know that drug addiction is not only a disease of one person. If somebody in the family would go into drug problem, the whole family will be affected. So they say drug addiction is the disease of the family, not only of the person affected. So in this morning's activity, our topic, drug addiction and refusal skills, with a testimony from our speaker, who's also one of our former residents here in DOH Cebu TRC. I do hope that everyone will be able to listen well and be able to learn or be informed of how we can really do away from drugs. And the best thing is to really just say no. Say no to drugs. Never allow it to enter your system, because we all know that there are a lot of ill effects or negative consequences of drug addiction. So with that, I thank the USPF family, thank you so much po for partnering with us in this particular endeavor. I'd like also to say thank you to the Education and Advocacy Committee of DOH Cebu TRC for facilitating this morning. So with that, thank you also to the moderator. Our moderator is Ma'am Rizalyn Pansoy. Maraming salamat po. And to everyone, may we all have a fruitful morning with this morning's activity. Thank you and God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peralta, for that very, very insightful and of course inspiring message. So students, wow jud ang life kong walay drugs. So as said by our doctor sa DOH, is prevention is better than cure. So I am sure that you students, of course the USPF students, will keep this in mind. Now I will introduce you to our main speaker for today's webinar. So our main speaker is a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy graduate of San Carlos Seminary College. He is a Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology from the University of San Carlos. He is a certified dialectic behavior therapist. He is also a certified clinical trauma professional, a licensed psychologist since 2018. He is also one of the psychologists of ConvoCare Behavioral Health Services. He is a psychologist and consultant of Heal Space Psychological Clinic and has currently the rank and designation of Psychologist 3 of the Department of Health Treatment and Rehabilitation Center of Cebu City. It is an honor to introduce our main speaker, Mr. Venos Jais Campilan II.
Hello, good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Yes.
So, for a while, I'm not so sure if you're seeing me because, I think naka-on na po yung camera ko, but I observed na walang okay. Anyhow po, wait for a while. Can I do the share screen? Okay lang po ba?
Yes, sir. I will exit my screen.
Sorry, may shared screen but hindi siya makita sa camera.
Parang naka-disable yung share screens.
Yes, sir.
Share screen. Okay, for a while. Share this. Okay, wait for a while. Okay. Wait for a while. It says here that I'm disabled to participate in share screen. I'm not so sure what's how
Good afternoon. Good morning, sir. Kindly share po.
hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. Nakikita naman ako. Hello. Hello.
Okay ka na? Okay ka na? Nakikita ka na, Jais? Okay na.
Sige, Doc. Are you seeing my screen right now?
Okay na, Jais. Go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, USPNs, right? I don't know if I got it right, USPNs, right? Tama po ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so good morning, USPNs. Again, before we proceed to the meat of our topic or activity for this morning, now allow me to share some personalities. Okay. Wait, let me just go back with the. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay, so before we proceed, again, let me introduce you to some personalities that I would say you can relate to. These personalities are just like you, my dear USPians. They were students. Okay, though personally I was not able to meet them, but it's their family, it's their loved ones, close relatives that I was privileged to get in touch and learn about these stories. Okay, yes, they were students like you, but unfortunately, in the middle of their journey, they met drugs. They inserted the use of illegal drugs. They got engaged with drugs, changed the course of their action, changed the trajectory of their life. Okay? So here, let me introduce to you the first personality. This is Elisa. Okay, so Elisa, I'm not so sure if any one of you here are considered yung mga party people. Okay, just like Elisa. So kaway-kaway sa mga students that they consider themselves party people. Okay, so Elisa is a party person. Now, even though she's 19 years old, she's been into different parties. She started going to parties around 16 years old, at the early age of 16. Now, one day, Elisa was invited to a party by one of her close friends. And these close friends of Elisa, because yun nga, Elisa is the life of the group. Siya yung party. So now this group of people wanted to make things interesting for them. And there is one person who introduced this so-called ecstasy. So I hope you're familiar with this ecstasy because I think we've been hearing cases of this one here in Cebu. Teenagers engaging in ecstasy. Now, this group of people, these close friends of Elisa, introduced the said drug to her. So lo and behold, just to make party alive, Elisa tried it. So according to the friends of Elisa, they said that they tried to tease Elisa. If you don't try this ecstasy, we will not be hanging out with you anymore. Fear of not being invited anymore. So Elisa, she tried ecstasy. And then after a couple of minutes, Elisa experienced an unusual sensation. One of this is vomiting. So during that night, the moment he consumed the ecstasy, frequently she's been vomiting and she's been experiencing excruciating pain. Okay? Now, yung mga kaibigan niya nagpapanik, they don't know what to do, and they don't want to report this matter to what? To their parents. So what they've done is they handed marijuana to Elisa, thinking that by doing this one, magiging okay si Elisa. But instead of making things better, things turned worse. So it turned out that Elisa, yung pain niya, intensified, and at the same time yung vomiting niya. So Elisa tried to endure that one for the entire night, and it was just early in the morning that Elisa was rushed to the ICU. But after a couple of hours, Elisa passed away. So it was mentioned, it was what they call this one. It was found out during the autopsy that it's because of the mixture of marijuana and ecstasy that Elisa experienced unusual sensations, and it was too much for her body. Okay, it was too much for her body to endure the pain, to endure the unusual sensation. So Elisa passed away. So that's the first case, the first personality, Elisa. Now, next, we meet this next personality. We have this one. Okay, meet Tony. Okay, so Tony is a senior high school student. Although I was not able to, I was not able to personally meet Tony. I was able to meet his parents. So I was able to interview them. It was around early years before the pandemic. Okay, so it happened pre-pandemic, the case of Tony. Now, Tony is a senior high school student. So meron ba senior high school dito? So kaway-kaway sa mga senior high school students dyan. Okay, so if we have senior high school students. Now, okay, now, so Tony is a senior high school student. Other than being a senior high school student, Tony was considered so promising. Why is that so? Because Tony is a small varsity player in a certain school here in Cebu. Okay, so considering his height na 6'10" or around 6'11". So considering his height 6'10", 6'11", I think most, if not all, coaches here in the Philippines would be so enticed or tempted to get Tony and have him part of the team. Okay, since he was so promising that this certain university, this certain school offered him a scholarship just to play for that school. And just to make it more intense, there was one coach from a prestigious university here in the Philippines. When this coach visited Cebu, he spotted Tony, and he was so amazed by the talent that Tony presented, or that Tony pinakita ni Tony during that particular game. And because of that one, that coach, through the help of the university, offered scholarship to Tony. Okay, so just imagine for what? Okay, before becoming a student of that certain university who invited him, he was asked to visit that university first. Okay, so just to give you an idea, it was around October when Tony received that invitation. Okay, it was around October, and by November, there was a paid travel, so paid by the company, that they're asking Tony to pay a visit sa university na yan. But prior to that visit, the family of Tony observed drastic changes, unusual changes kay Tony. They've observed that Tony drastically lose his weight. So bumaba yung timbang ni Tony. Next is Tony also experienced sleeplessness. And at the same time, you observe there are dark circles. If you observe those individuals who were deprived of sleep or lacking sleep, usually you will see blackened eyes. Okay, so that's the thing. That's the thing that they've observed from Tony several weeks before his flight to Manila. Okay, and 2 days or 2 or 3 days about na lumipad si Tony to Manila, Tony had a day practice sa school niya. After that long day practice, Tony went home. Now, when Tony arrived or approached the kitchen, Tony suddenly collapsed. What happened? Out of panic, the parents of Tony brought him to hospital. Pina-ICU si Tony. And they've just found out that Tony had a heart attack. And it was through that examination that the doctors found out that there were met sa Tony's heart. Okay, and that caused heart damage kay Tony. Now, for several weeks after that incident, Tony became a walking time bomb. So you don't know when he will detonate. Okay, so just to cut it short, after several weeks, the parents of Tony give permission to disconnect yung life support. And few days after, Tony died. Okay, so these are the cases of Tony and Elisa. Again, just like you, they were students. They were promising. But in the course of their life, they've encountered yung drugs. And it changed the trajectory of their life. And because of these cases, that's why we from staff from DOH in partnership with your school have this seminar talk na Sana All, Wow ang Life Without Drugs. It's one way of advertising that there is more to life without drugs. That at the end of the day, these dreams, these visions that we are hoping to aspire will come true if we just don't embrace, we don't allow drugs to come into our life. Okay, so that's the idea of this one. Okay, so again, welcome to Sana All, Wow ang Life Without Drugs. Okay, so just to give you a quick background or a quick idea of how is the drug case here in the Philippines. By the way, according to DOH, this is the thing. This is a 2021 case census. So last 2021, 2,708 admissions were recorded. And it was stated that there is a 14% increase in admission compared to the previous year. So despite project, despite this program of the previous administration, the war on drugs, still the engagement of Filipinos to drugs is still increasing despite that program. Okay. Now the thing also, it's 5% of the admission constitute students. So if there are 2,700, around 100, hundreds of those are students or are teenagers, and almost 1% are out of school youth. So imagine that one, you're not exempted. It doesn't mean to say that it's rehabilitation center only adults are being treated. Still, there are those even in the rehabilitation center, those considered students are still part of that population. And among that 2,700 individuals, they've reported that they've started using drugs at the age of 15 to 19. So just imagine that one. I think most of you are in this age bracket, 15 to 19 years old. Needless to say, you are vulnerable to this so-called drug engagement. Okay, so that's why this program is introduced. Okay, so again, 41% mentioned or reported that they've started to engage in drugs at the age of 15 to 19 years old. Okay. So with that one, let me bring you to the objectives of this seminar talk. So first is we'll learn about drug addiction. Okay, so since it's more of drug addiction, I'll not be focusing more on the specific drugs, but I will I will bring you to the stages of drug addiction and how does it affect one's being, the wellness of an individual, and at the same time, how does it progress? So that's more of drug addiction. Next is also learn refusal strategies, because whether we like it or not, those individuals who are into drug use, they are so cunning, they will try to make ends meet. They will try to do exhaust all possibilities just to convince you. So I hope this seminar talk will help you, would increase your protective factors not to engage in drug use, so that you will not end up like Tony, um, and what they call this one? I forgot the name of the okay, Elisa. Okay, Tony and Elisa. The story that we give you. Okay, so first it would be better to discuss what is drugs. Okay. So drugs, one, substances thermal or through the skin. I think there are skin patches that are being common. Is, let's say, the heroin, also opiates are being used through transdermal or intravenous through injection. Emotion and behavioral effects on a person. Okay, so drugs, once you consume this substance, there is an effect to your body. And since it tries to alter your mood physiologically and emotionally, most likely the assumption here is the effect is something positive. Okay, again, it feels good to that matter. Since it feels good, then most likely it becomes addictive. So that's the idea. So how alter our body. Okay, now let me highlight that not all drugs are those that are prohibited. Drugs can be legal. So examples, we have coffee, we have energy drinks. I think this is common among athletes and among teenagers. They're fond of drinking energy drinks. And also we have alcoholic beverages. So if you try to observe, it doesn't mean to say that when we talk of drugs, it's just purely the shabu, the marijuana, the ecstasy. Also, I'm referring to coffee, I'm referring to energy drink, alcoholic beverages, and I think common is cigarettes as well. Okay, so common among students. It doesn't mean to say that they're legal. It won't alter your mood. It won't alter your physiology. Still, it alters you. And in fact, let me tell you some of this. We have over-the-counter drugs, and it should be taken with the prescription of the medical doctors. Okay, because if you try to take it without the prescription, chances are you might tend to misuse it, and time will come you will abuse it. Okay, so that's for the legal drugs. Also here we have another type of drugs, the illegal drugs. Okay, so these are the shabu, the MJ, or what we call as marijuana, the heroin, also the ecstasy. Okay, both of this, as per this definition, do alter us physiologically, emotionally. So that's the idea of drugs. Okay, so now with these drugs, you might be asking, Jais, how does one person become an addict, or why are these substances become so addictive, or what's the process of a person becoming an addict? Okay, so let me bring you to this neurobiology of addiction. Now this might be technical, but I'll promise you, I think this is the most technical. After we pass this certain slide, I think it's easy to follow through yung other slides. Okay, so here, if you try to observe, there are four parts of the brain that I highlighted. The nucleus accumbens. Okay, this is the part of the brain that's responsible for motivation and action, and also it has something to do, since this is for motivation and action, this has something to do with the reward principle of the brain. Okay, so if you try to observe this nucleus accumbens next to amygdala, by the way, amygdala is responsible for emotions and emotional behavior, particularly those strong emotions, let's say fear, sadness, anger. That's the work of the amygdala. So if you try to observe that passage from nucleus accumbens, this blue one, to amygdala, once you use that drug, or any drug for that matter, it will try to give you an idea, or it will try to register that, okay, that that experience of mine was good. Okay, so through that area, again, it will register in your brain that my experience, or yeah, that experience of mine was good. Okay, now from amygdala to the ventral tegmental area, so the VTA, if you try to observe that one, the one in purple, that's responsible for the physiological experiences of the person. Okay, now since again amygdala is responsible for the emotions. Now once amygdala is triggered or being heightened because of that drug use, it will also create signal. It will also create signal to your brain that what was registered when I use that particular thing or particular substance was good. Okay, was good. It was ecstatic. That's why, just a segue lang, if you want to learn more, or if you want to make learning effective, try to make it emotional. Okay, diba? Once you're learning something and you're at the peak of your emotion, it's easy for you to remember. Try reading once you are bored. Most likely, it will just take days for you to forget about that information because there's no emotion that's being involved. Okay, so again, amygdala responsible for that emotion. Okay, and that will send signal as it goes through the ventral tegmental area. It will try to say the emotion that time was ecstatic. Okay, so that's why it will try to create what? Positive emotions, good feelings. Now, from the ventral tegmental area, the purple one, down to the nucleus accumbens, it will try to tell the nucleus accumbens, these were the things that I've been doing to experience that good or ecstatic moment. So this is actually the part, the green arrow, the eye. This will try to tell you, okay, this has been the thing that I've been doing way back that create that particular elation, that high moment. So that's why it will try to convince the nucleus accumbens, okay, that thing was rewarding, let's try it again. So if you try to observe, it's no surprise that once we start using these drugs, particularly yung mga illegal drugs, because in terms of dopamine, the dopamine that they trigger, it's relatively high compared to those things that are regulated. So shabu, marijuana, in terms of dopamine that's being released, they are relatively high compared to those. That's why it's no surprise why a certain person becomes hooked with this particular drug. Now you might be asking, so Chais, what's the purpose of this prefrontal cortex? This prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making. And I think this is part of our brain that distinguishes us from other animals, lower form of animals, because this is more of a rational thinking, decision making. Now, if you try to observe, Jais, that's responsible for decision making, rational thinking. How come it will not try to convince ourselves that stop, it's not good for your health? Ideally, that's the work of the prefrontal cortex. But once the dopamine is the surge of dopamine is high, sometimes the prefrontal cortex, in terms of decision making, somehow it's being paralyzed. So that's why, even though you know it's wrong, even though you know it's not good, you tend to justify it. Why? Because of the feeling that it's good. It's I'm in a cloud nine right now. So that's the idea. That's just to explain how an individual is addicted. By the way, this is not just limited to what they call this one, to substance use. Anything that we become addicted to, this is how our brain works. It's just that during the at the stage of addiction for those illegal substances, intense yung surge ng dopamine. Just to refresh, dopamine is the feeling good hormone. Okay, so it's the feeling good chemical. So one high na high ka, it's difficult to say no. Once the pleasure is so intense, it's difficult to say no to that matter. Okay, now compared it to other experiences, let's say this one, diba, once we experience winning a lottery game, or once we experience the person that you love saying yes to your proposal, there's a trigger of dopamine, a dopamine release. But then there's what we call as reuptake process. Yes, we feel cloud nine, but after quite some time, let's say a couple of hours, we get back to normal. In our case, murag naulian, nahuwasan pa. But in the case of what they call this one, those illegal drugs, they try to disturb the reuptake process. That's why it would take a couple of days to stabilize yourself. It's because the dopamine reuptake process is being disturbed by the substances such as meth, marijuana, and the other illegal substances. I hope neurobiology of addiction is understood for that matter. Okay. Sige, so can I see thumbs up if you're what they call this one? If you understand somehow the neurobiology of what they call this one, addiction. Okay. So this one. So yeah. Okay. Sige. I'm seeing one na nag-thumbs up. Okay. So yeah, I assume that you understand the idea of addiction, how one person becomes addicted. Okay. Next is this one. Since we talked about addiction, there is what we call as stages of addiction. Okay, stages of addiction, meaning to say it doesn't mean to say once you engage in drugs, it's a full-blown addiction. So just like wooing someone, there's a stage. Okay, just like become fully in love with someone, you experience stages. Let's say it starts with infatuation, it starts with or even marrying someone. Before you culminate with marriage, it starts with wooing someone, dating someone, so that so that's the idea of it. So now same goes with addiction. We experience or we undergo stages before it becomes a full-blown addiction. So first is this one, the experimentation stage. So during this time, it's just that a certain individual or person, let's say in that case, Elisa is just into parties. Okay, now her idea of just going out is just what? To distress herself, okay, maybe from demanding tasks, from demanding schoolworks, without the knowledge of having drugs. Now, it just so happened during the experimentation that there are some individuals in that particular group would introduce that chemical or that substance, okay? Or let's say in the case of Tony, now, he was only into basketball until one person, this is their speculation, one person among the group in the basketball team convinced Tony that, hey, Brad or Tony, let's try this one so that you will be pumped up. So you will be more energetic during team plays. So that's the idea. Experimentation. So parang trial and error. But here's the thing. Once you are in this experimentation stage, it's crucial. It's crucial to examine yourself. Are you vulnerable during the stage? Because chances are it might lead you to the next stage. Now, when I say vulnerable, I think those individuals who are emotionally affected, who are emotionally dysregulated, these are the individuals who are commonly or who are easily convinced to increase their drug use. So be mindful of your emotional state during this time, because chances are if you're so down, let's say for example, you had a breakup with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and then someone told you na, Brad or sis, inom lang ta na. Or Brad, sis, suwayin suyo ko, mawa na yung mga problema. Having this kind of proposal, when you are vulnerable, we become an easy prey for them. Because yun nga, in terms, once you're vulnerable, your inhibition is down. And at the same time, your cognition, the way you think, it's also affected. So it's good to be mindful. Next is regular use. During this time, you're starting to incorporate drug use as part of your daily living. Okay. Next is risky use. During this time, you will be experiencing cravings, and it is as if you can't live your life without the drug. Okay, so that's the idea. So this, you will be experiencing withdrawal symptoms if you try to stop. So that's the idea. There's psychological and physical sensations that you will be experiencing. That's for risky use. And next is drug dependence. Okay, drug addiction and dependence. During this time, you resort into doing what? Risky behaviors. You resort into doing what? Negative things just to acquire that drug, even though you know the negative effects to your body. Let's say you know for a fact that you're becoming restless, irritable, and at the same time your relationship with your family is affected. But since you're already hooked, you're already a full-blown addicted, to the drug that you're using, you don't recognize it as problems. So this is the stages of addiction. Okay, so I hope once even you're in the experimentation stage, try to cut it, try to stop it, because time will come that it's difficult. It's really difficult once you've started it. So once you start experimenting, most likely it would end up you becoming addicted to it. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so that's the stages of addiction. Okay, now let me define addiction. So it's a chronic relapsing brain disease that is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use despite harmful consequences. So even though you know that there are negative experiences, negative effects of you engaging in drugs, but still you convince yourself that I want to use it. Okay, so that's it. It's chronic, it's relapsing. So it doesn't mean to say you were able to manage it within the day or within years. It doesn't mean to say that you will not experience or you will not experience any using of that certain substance. We don't know. Okay, once you've started it, there's a tendency that you can go to that one. It's just like I am not so sure there's one food that once tasted, always one. So parang ganun. Okay, because the thing here, our body already knows anong effect ng drug sa atin. The high effect, the cloud-9 effect. And sometimes our body will look for that one, especially once we're emotionally vulnerable. Okay, now let me bring you to the risk and protective factors. So risk factors, these are the things that would, if you have this one, most likely you might tempt or end up using drugs. Okay, so that's the risk factors. While protective factors means to say if you have this one, it will be used as your deterrent para hindi gumamit ng drugs. Okay, so that's protective factors. So I've determined domains here, okay, certain domains. For community, a risk factor would be community disorganization, especially if you find your place in an area na criminal activities, drug usage is rampant or is common, then most likely you might end up of engaging in that fun as well. So laws and norms favorable to drug use, perceived availability of drug use, because if it's available, then most likely chances are that it might become a norm. It might become a part of the communal practice or communal activity. So a protective factor could be community cohesion. So bonded as a community towards doing something productive, okay, towards something what? Not supporting drug use. So if you try to serve, if there are certain communities or barangays that have this contra droga activities. So if we have this kind of program in the government, most likely it will be a deterrent for others to engage in drug use, because they know there is something that's doing the monitoring when it comes to drug use. Okay. Next is the school level. Okay. Next is one, we have academic failure and little commitment to school. So most likely in a study, those individuals who would try to engage in drug use are those who are poor in academics or who are struggling in academics. Okay. Now it doesn't mean to say naman, it doesn't mean to say if you have poor or if you have low grades, then most likely you might end up using drugs. Okay. It's just a risk factor. Okay. It could be their means of coping. So there are those individuals that because of academic failure or challenges, experiences in school, they end up using drugs in order to cope from that from that experience. Okay. Next is we have the protective factors. Sa school level, it's participation in school activities. Once you're preoccupied, once your schedule is so full, entertaining or doing schoolworks, and most likely you would not have a time or a dull moment for you to entertain drugs. So that's why it's encouraged that in a school to have this particular activity, let's say drug awareness or drug psychoeducation activity. So your mind will be open regarding this matter. Okay, so participation in school activities and also activities, extracurricular activities that encourage students, okay, to spend their time, dull moments into something productive. Because sometimes one of the things then why students engage in drug use is curiosity and also naboboard sila. Now, to make use of that stored energy in every student, the school should be having these activities, events that they can utilize the stored energy of the students, okay, and turn it into something productive. Okay. Next is this one, on a domain, in a family domain. Parental attitudes favorable to drug use, particularly if you have parents who are into drug engagement. Most likely, some students or their children would end up following the will of their father, the practice of their father or mother, especially if they've observed that the output is beneficial or favorable. So that's the thing. Next is poor family management. When I say management in terms of presence, mama and papa are not there. They are always absent. So, saan yung napupunta ng time ng child? So, it's more of the barkada. It would be better if they have peers that are supportive, that are positive in nature. But we don't know kasi at the end of the day, they might end up with peers that are into risky behaviors or worse, into drug use. Because during this time, during adolescent stage, particularly adolescent stage, that's the time that the brain of the teenagers, parang they want to explore things. The idea that I'm not a child anymore, but I'm not yet adult also. So they are torn in between. So experimentation stage is common during that time. So family engagement, family or parental, what they call this one, parental engagement is also advised during that. Next, family history of antisocial behaviors. So that can also be a risk factor. Protective factors would be family sanction against drug use. So it must be what, a communicated rule, a communicated practice in every family. It should be highlighted that every member should not engage in drug use. We just don't tolerate it, because the moment you tolerate it, particularly his or her behavior, most likely you are subliminally telling him, it's okay, child, I'm here to support you, or I do understand you. So the indirect message of that child will be getting, anyhow, my parents will be there for me. Just in case if there's an unwanted event that will happen. So let's not be a codependent parent, that we try to reinforce their behavior. Also, positive parent relationship. I think for a child, a relationship is translated into time. So I hope parents who are parents here, if there are parents right now, so I hope parents establish that relationship with the child. Spend time with him, spend time with her. And not just spending time, make it a quality time between you and your child. Okay. Next is this one. Early initiation of antisocial behavior. So this is for peer and individual. Here's the thing. The earlier you start to use drugs, the difficult it for you to stop it. Why is it so? Because during that time, if my memory serves me right, I think it's at the age of 20 or 22, 21 that our brain is fully developed. Now, if you insert drugs before it's fully developed, now your brain would learn about this drug and its cloud nine effect. So your brain, your body will be looking for that sensation, since part of its development is that cloud nine effect. So I hope you don't start it or have no plans of using it at your age. Okay, or even as you grow old, I hope you don't engage in that one. Okay. Next is attitudes favorable to drug use. So these are impulsive behaviors that also the idea that curiosity kills the cat. So I hope you try to be mindful of the things that you're saying yes to or engaging to. Next is peer drug use. So be mindful who your friends are. As they say, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. So be mindful of that one. Okay. Now they might not affect us then and there, but constant exposure to these individuals, most likely we might end up practicing their own behaviors, embracing their own behaviors. Okay. Protective factors, positive peer relationships, network of non-drug user peers, good mental health. Because again, there are instances that we use drugs or individuals use drugs because it's their way of coping. Okay. Next is in relation to that one, you need to practice strong coping and problem skills. At the end of that, it doesn't solve any problems. It will just try to make you forget about it. But once you snap out of your consciousness, then lo and behold, you realize that actually you not solved your problem. You just delayed it. So instead of engaging, try you develop strong
Okay, I think there was a trouble sa end from our speaker. Yes, sir. Sir?
Um, wow. Okay. Let me resume lang. Okay. Are you seeing my screen right now? Just to recall it.
Yes, sir. We can still see the
Okay.
screen.
So the last slide I presented was on the strategies. Am I right? Okay.
Yes,
Sige.
sir.
Now, this one, as what I've said, there are a lot of refusal strategies. It's not because that it's difficult to deal with drugs. It's just that one refusal strategy might not be a preferred activity for one person, or one refusal strategy works better for this individual while it doesn't work for others. So just see what works for you. Okay. First is the most common is just simply say no. Okay, deliberately saying a hard no. Because once you say no and you don't try to what they call this one justify, it doesn't give them an opportunity to rebut. Okay, since you already give a big no. Now next, give a reason or excuse. Now make sure the reason or the fact or excuse that you're giving, it doesn't give them the opportunity to justify. Okay. Example, reason is what they call this one. This one. I want to. There's one person. The reason that he din ako mo gamit or I don't want to use because what I call this one, it's bad, or my mother said so. And the ideas in what was the response of his peers? His peers was that actually your mother is telling you that because your mother can't afford or your mother was not able to use this one. But let me tell you, once you use it, you will not regret it. So if you try to observe that one, if you're giving reasons that make it sure that your peers or any of your what they call this one dragging friends can rebut that one. What is usually given is an excuse. So I can do it, or I can stay long. I can stay long because this and that. Or a usual practice for this one, reason, fact, or excuse. Usually, what some teens would do or other individuals would do is they connive with their loved ones. Okay, so once, let's say this one, I will tell my, hypothetically, it's me, I'm being convinced by my peers. What I will do is I will send a text message to my mom, a blank text message. And once my mom, or let's say my girlfriend, my partner receives it, she will, they will call me. Then I can give an excuse. Okay, sorry guys, I need to leave because someone's calling. My mother is calling. Or what you do is you set a ringtone that I think there's a speed dial for that matter, or you can set it that once you touch it, there's a ringtone that will pop out, so that you can make that one as an excuse. Okay, sorry for a while, I need to go, blah, blah, blah. So you can use that one. Okay. Next is walk away. Okay. You don't want to give them an avenue to rebut, then automatically just walk away, shrug your shoulders, then walk away. So that's a thing that you can do. Next is change the subject. Make sure if you're changing the subject, they can relate to. Because chances are, if you change the subject and it is something boring or not relevant for others, it's difficult to get them out of that drug subject or drug topic. Make sure that that is something relevant for you. Okay, let's say an example, if some of your friends would say, Brad, tagay ta na, or Bay, tagay ta na. You can tell them, di ba niingon, nagsabot man taganiha nga mga sa so and so. Make sure that that is something relevant. Don't try to say, change the subject, then what you've inserted, the subject is out of the blue, or they find it nonsensical, then most likely that will not take effect. Okay, next is repeated refusal or broken record. So constantly you just give the same reason all throughout. You just simply say no, or you give the same reason until such time they will find it. It's like reprogramming in their heads that this certain person, Chais, once you convince him, hudig yun na siya because for this certain reason. Okay, so if that's something being constantly done or being repeated, then most likely they will give up convincing. But again, it would take some time. It takes effort to constantly say no. Okay. Next is avoid the situation. Okay, so if you know, try to observe. I think there are patterns. So try to avoid situation. If you know, if you heard from someone that every after examination, this group of Mario would go to a certain store, and afterwards they will do drinking session. They will go back to their homes around early in the morning na. Now, if that you know about that situation, and one day you're being invited. Okay, so try to avoid that one. Okay, if you already have an idea about that situation. Next is reversing the pressure. So reversing the pressure is just like knocking on the conscience of your peers. Di ba niingon ka nga, example, di ba niingon ka nga di ta mag-drugs, or di ba niingon ka nga di na ka mag-drugs kay di ka ganahan nga magbuwag mo ni so and so. So it's like pakonsensyaon nato ang our peers. Or let's say this, for example, diba, you've said you want to gain the trust of your mother, and don't want to engage in drug use. So that's the thing, reversing the pressure. And the last is strength in numbers. Make sure if you're in that situation, you have someone with you. And make sure that someone with you will jive with you to say no once someone convinces you to use drugs. Let's say common example is you're into a drinking session, you're with your barkada, and you know you're this kind of person easily convinced. And good thing you're blessed with a stricta na girlfriend. A girlfriend that's so straight to the point. So instead, when you are confronted with the time that one of your peers will convince you na, Jais, one shot lang or ikaw usa lang, what you can do is you pass it to your girlfriend. You can say, pananghit sa akong girlfriend, I not to siya. And you, if your girlfriend would say, common, it could be your parent, it could be your cousin or relative that would really say bring with you someone who can support you once you are convinced by one of your driving peers. So I think those things that you can make use, those are strategies at the end that you can utilize during, okay, during crisis situations. In this seminar talk, this one. So I think there's problem with the connection. Okay, here. According to Bob Riley, drugs are the enemy of ambition and hope. Diba, once we experience 9 moments or once we experience elation, our brain do the reuptake process, meaning to say it's trying to transfer um, this, going back, the idea here is if you try to solution or moment, it will just be momentarily. After few minutes or few hours, we go back to the normal state. Okay, and even if you try to put it in the religious context, God or our God does not just give us cloud nine. There are suffering. What I'm trying to point here is drugs kasi alter that experience of okay, so I hope you try your best na to go this pain, to go this hardships or difficulties as part of your growth. As students, we experience moments of struggles and difficulties, and it's part of growth. I hope we don't try to insert this to escape hardships. So I hope this hope of Bob Riley, drugs are the enemies of vision and hope, so that we can fight for our future. I hope your response would be what? Sana. Okay, I hope your response for this one would be sana all. Okay. Without drugs. Okay, so I hope your response would be sana all, wow ang life without drugs. And I don't want you to end up repeating your life story or sharing your life story like that of Elisa and Tony. Yes, share ka nga, pero yung isi-share is your tragic experience because of drugs. So with that, thank you for listening, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Campanilla, for the very insightful and, of course, very knowledgeable discussion on about the drug addiction and, of course, on the refusal skills. So there is more to life without drugs. The cases of Elisa and Tony are an eye-opener to our USPN students. And of course, students learn to refuse. Say no always, especially to drugs. Be mindful of your friends. Don't accept things unknowingly. Choose your friends wisely. And drugs is not the answer and will never be the answer to your problems. Now, I will introduce you to our testimony speaker. She was a residential patient of the DOH TRC who handled responsibly and heartily completed her inpatient and aftercare programs. She is now gracefully recovering from her past and is continuing a sober and clean life. She is also a treatment advocate and an anti-drug awareness campaign. Let us give a warm welcome to Miss Elena Beatriz Sabelia Ramos.
Hello, madungog ra ba ko?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Clearly.
All right. So, hi, good morning, DI sa fellow USPians. Since ako said before, taga USP pod ko since kindergarten up until fourth year high school. So, karon i-share na ko ninyo ang experience na ko before. Actually, by the way, my name is Elena Beatriz, but you can call me Bea, Ate Bea. Either way, sa inyong mas comfortable mo. Today, my name is Elena Beatriz, so 28 years of age, but my mom used to call me her prodigal daughter. So nganong prodigal daughter man, if you're familiar with the parable of the prodigal son, katong sa Luke chapter 15, verse 11 to 32, then that is exactly what happened to me. So when I was 6 years old, my mom and dad decided to have separate ways. So nagbulag na sila. Then that's what I didn't really understand before. Then during family days, di ba, naaman dyan tayo mga family days din ha sa school, mga recognitions, then I can see kids joining games with their mom and dad. So when they are being awarded, they can go to the stage and have photos with their parents. So kanang masuya kung anong sila makakuan sila ingon ana, then ako kay kanang wala ko'y mama kasi akong mama pud ato kay busy man siya sa school na I mean sa iyang trabaho kay since single mom siya, then mauna ang akong wa masabti before. So murag nagtanom kog hatred sa akong heart. Then mo to gi-promise na ko sa akong self pud nga when the time comes nga ako na anak ko'y own family, dili po na ma-experience sa ako ang mga anak nga kaning wala sila'y papa or kanang buwag like mahimo kag murag product sa broken family bitaw. Then mo to nga kami sa akong mama dili gud mi close. Always dyan na siya busy sa iyang job. Then if I were to describe her before bitaw, heartless ni siya pagkamama kay dili gyud gani pangutanon if okay ra ba ko, okay ra ba kanang how am I feeling today ba, then how's my day going so far, kanaging mga ingon na like the usual mom. Then mo to siya nga at the age of 19 I got pregnant with my first daughter. Our relationship with her father went well until I found out nga he had an affair with my best friend. And then, nabuntis pa gito niya ang akong best friend. So, mo to nga, gitry na ko siya og kanang pasaylo bitaw, pero every night, ako naman siyang kanang pangutanon bitaw if nganong nahitabo to. So, unhealthy na kayo ang relationship. Then, dili pud ko gusto nga makakita ang among anak nga maka-witness nga sige mig-away. Kay murag traumatizing man na para sa bata. So, I decided nga magbulag na lang mi kay para kanang at least dili na ko makuan, dili na mo mapakita sa bata nga ingon ana bitaw kagubot ngano ni iyang mamagpapa or ingon ana gani. So mo to nga ni move on ko until to make the story short, nakailan ako ang second father sa ako ang anak. Nya mo to na okay ra pud ang mga relasyon jud, and then naabot pud ang time mga pila ka years na, ah, naabot na murag manapat na siya, mo abuse na siya nako mentally, then daghan na kay siyang mga gipangsulti nga bati bitaw nga wala na ko kauyon, and then ang pinaka no pinaka red flag yun ato niya is manapat. So murag ako ang feeling nako nga ni ana mo ko before nga dili jud ko gusto murag ma-experience gani sa akong kids o broken family. So mo to nga disappointed jud kay ko sa akong kaugalingon nga unsa man ko klase nga pagakuan unsay kuwang nako. So mao na to nga dito na nasulod ang katong gi-discuss ni Sir Jais ganiha nga naaman tay katong upat ka book stages of addiction ba nga katong experimental. So that's when I decided to take drugs. So mo to siya nga I was down, and then I felt like I have no one. Then nobody asked me to do it man, like gigalgal ba ko, or my friend didn't ask me to do it. So I was the one who decided to take it man. And every time I am under the influence of drugs, I feel like nobody can hurt me. I am strong. I am the toughest version of me when I get high. So feeling ni mo kay, oy, di ko ninyo mabasta-basta. So since that first hit, I loved it. I knew then I am able to get out of myself, and I can use this substance to change how I feel or not to feel anything at all. So that's exactly what I wanted at that point of my life. Whenever I get weary, whenever I had an argument with my mom, I'll walk out from our house and will take a hit of that drugs. Then after being an emotional one, I'll turn into a numb one. So mauna ang akong kuan nga klase nga drug sa una, shabu. So mo na ilang gitawag or meth. And then I remain on using jud, then kay nagsugod ko og use 2017 man. Kahinumdum ba jud ko July 16, 2017 mao jud na akong first hit ana nga drugs gyud. Then mo to nga nagpadayon na gihapon kog use, nagpadayon ra kog use nya. I remain on using jud, and then I decided to go to college. So kuan ko ato 2019 to siya. 20 I'm not sure 24, 25. So mo to siya nga kanang every after class, like for example if naay kanang exams, ako jung ikuan mo gagabi mo mukuan jud ko mugamit jud ko drugs kay para inigkaugma ka ng feeling nako nga maayo kay kuan nga exam inana kay when you take drugs man good feeling nimo maayo kay kastanan, then kanang mura gani siya igiilad ra ka I don't know, powerful jud kayo ng drugs jud. Then mo to nga kanang when I get home I'll use again na nahimo na akong routine nga every breakfast udto panihapon midnight snacks pag ani magkalisod mugamit jud ko. And then mo na to siya nga ang katong ikaduha na nga stage sa addiction katong gitawag ni kuan ni Sir Jais nga sa unsa to siya nga katong ang first ka experimental, and then ang second one is regular use na siya kay kanang magpangita naman akong lawas, and then risky use na siya like buhato na jud ako ang tanan kay like for example wala kay kwarta ingon ana buhato na gyud ako ang tanan kay para lang makakuan mangita ko kwarta mangita ko paagi. So mo na to nga nagkuan ako sa last stage gid ato ang drug addiction o ang drug dependent na jud kaayo ko magpangita na akong lawas kay whenever dili ko makagamit kay muram ko hilantan mura ko kanang feel nako kuan kay ko luya kay ko ba. So mo to nga kanang niana pa ko daghan kog friends diha naka-surround nako nga ningon nga ayaw na undangin na kay dili na makaayo sa imong lawas. And then wala jud ko wa ko nakabantay nga ni daot nako kay when you take drugs also wala kay gana mo kaon. Wala kay appetite bitaw, di ka gutomon, then unaware kayo ka nga from pila ka kilos nimo mulus jud ning mong weight jud. Then mo to pinana kung lasus ay kabala ka ako'y modala sa bisyo. Then wala ko kahibaw nga ako na di ang nadala sa bisyo. And then, but I never realized how it affects me physically and mentally. So when the effect of its substance subside, Jude, I become an emotional one. So emotional kaayo ko, then when I will start question everything that happens to me. Naabot na gid ko sa point na I even question God even more. I had doubts if he really exists, if it's true that there's God. So moto nga drugs became my best friend. It's making me feel like I don't need anyone as long as I have it. I didn't realize that I was already unmanageable. I already had problems with my attendance in school because I can't sleep at night. I just wanted to take it again and again. Then I started to feel like everyone is talking something behind my back. So kuan na kay ko kanang paranoid na kay ko nga. Gihilabtan ko bisag wala. Like everyone around you murag feeling nimo ikay gitan-aw, ikay gikatawan. Usa na po na siya sa mga epekto sa drugs na moingon sila nga like for example naa kay friends nga mingon na manggamit ta kay para mawala na imong problema. Ay kabala ka mo ni makatabang ni mustanan. But at the end of the day kung mawala na ang epekto ng drugas, guba kay ka. Guba jud kay ka nga makaapekto pud sa imong utok pud sa imong mga sa imong way of thinking. Negative na jud kay kastanan kung unsa nimo ka negative atong plain kay ka wa kay gigamit mas negative ka after anang makatake og drugs. And then at this point I have a lot of friends po. They are also considered as my drug friends kay manggamit na sad sila. Which is I thought nga ay mao ni sila akong true friends, mao ni sila akong family. This is kanang what I considered nga family kay pirmi man sila na anak ko. So when ikaw na kay drugs, na kay kuan, na kay ayo, pirmi gid na naani mo ang mga friends nimo nga mong gamit pud. Then mo to nga naabot sa point nga kanang I also have friends, namo ko'y mga friends pud nga dili pud sila mo gamit. They don't consider it as my drug friends because they don't take that substance man. But I chose my drug friends kay mas malingaw man ko, magkakoy-kuyog man mi, na may mga exhibition, mga adventure. So mo to nga sa sige gihapon ako gamit, sa sige na ko gamit, wala na ko kahibaw nga nawala na tanan ako ang akong family. Ang kay nakakita naman sila nako physically nga dili na ko okay. Nakakita sila unsa naman kabeya. Di naman na ikaw. Daot na kay ko, piyahok na kay kustanan, na nakoy dimples diri. Nya. Ni ana din ko ni mo ana din sila nga ni take baka drugs ingon ana niya ako denial kay ko nga wala oy nganong mo take mo ko ana pero wa na nagpa feeling ra pud ko sa kong mama ni ana ra pud ko nga busy kay ko sa school, may busy jud kay ko sa school where in fact ikagabi take ra day kong drugs until I lost everything. I was lonely, I lost my friends, then mo to I just realized that during the time of my abundance, I have all friends, people, then I lost my studies. I became unaware that I have slowly lost everything. My goals, my family, I burnt those bridges. Ang akong mga anak, unsa na life future sa akong mga anak, nawagtangan pud sila og mama. I didn't mean to. Wala ko kahibaw nga ingon ana di ay ang epekto sa drugs. Nagmahay-mahay ko. Pero ingon bitaw nila nga regrets never comes first. So, mo to siya, February 6, 2020, I woke up and stared myself in front of a mirror. Wala naman, wala na ko tanan, wala na jud, wala na mama, wala na manghod, wala na maguwang, wala na anak, wala na friends, kay wala naman, wala na ko'y kwarta. Daot kay ko, luspad jud kay ko sa tanan, murag wa ko'y kinabuhi. Then I realized that I am completely wasted. Dito na ako na-realize nga, I need help. I need to seek help, Jude. And then, at the very first time atong pagsugod atong ning take og drugs, dito pa ko naka-pray og balik. Ning sangpit na jud ko niya nga, Lord, please do not let me walk on the wrong path this time. So I grabbed my phone and checked my Instagram. I got a message from my brother. Kani siya nga brother nako. Suod kay mi ani niya. Mauni siya ang kanang murag best friend nako, and then murag mahadlok na lang gani ko manghasol nila bitaw like if ever na ako'y problem, di ko gusto ipakita nila nga weak ko, which is very wrong. walay sayop kung ipakita ni mga weak ka. So moto, with the help of him, I decided to go on rehab to fix myself, to seek help. Then February 7, 2020, when I entered Cebu Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, mao na sa facility nga naa si Dr. Jasmine Peralta dito, si Doc Jane, naa sila dito, and I was being escorted by my mom and my brother. Then at that very moment, I accepted wholeheartedly that I need their help. I accepted it to myself that I am really unmanageable na. Dili na ako'y nagdala sa bisyo. Ako na'y gidala sa bisyo. So, akong ginahon na to, this is not for me, but for my kids. They need me. I don't want them to feel like they are being abandoned by their mom, kay wala na pud baya sila papa. So, during my stay on that rehab, so my first 3 days was kinda really difficult kay ang akong lawas nagpangita gyud sa drugs, kay sa gawas grabe man akong pag-take sa drugs. Like every now and then kung muubos na gani mo subside nang iyang effect, balik na pud kog take. Kay lagi gusto nako makuan jud ka kanang like magstay ang akong high bitaw akong tama. So, wala ako kahibaw pud nga ikadugay nga sige nimo gamit ana mas mo taas ang imong dosage ana. So mas more pa ka mag-crave. Kung unsa ka gamay ang imong gi-take pagsugod mas mudaghan na siya. And then mo to siya nga mao na ang gitawag ni pareha tong ingon ni Sir Jais ganiha nga withdrawal. Nag-agi ko anang withdrawal stage where I experienced very high fever and then I felt like my body was looking for that substance. Then after a few days, I was able to cope up and survive without the influence of drugs. Seconds into minutes, minutes into hours, hours into days, days into months. So the structural program of CTRC helps us recover from our addiction, Jud. I have mga co-sisters dito nga mga lahi-lahi sa dang ilahang mga experiences as what atong gidiscuss ganihan ni Sir Jais nga naadyoy mga nagkadaiyang mga stories ang mga inpatient didto kung nganong nahitabo nga naabot sila sa punto nga nagtake sila og drugs, which is now nga kanang kung mas maaga pa, learn to say no, Jude. Learn to say no kay once matilawan na nimo, lisod na kayo igawas. So, dito sa rehab, wala mi gadgets, wala mi cellphones, wala mi tanan, wala internet. So, makakuan jud ka, maka-reflect jud ka dito. It will really helps us having some reflections on what we have done in the past. That life is better when you're sober. Walay drugs. Kaniadtong ka ng malipayon pa kay ka, positive thinker pa ka, dili pa ka paranoid. Then day by day, while I am inside the rehab, inside sa kana nga facility, I slowly realize everything. That my mom is not a heartless woman. Kay nagtanom jud kog pagdumot aton nagtanom kog pagdumot nga nganong ingon ani man nganong wala kay time nako, nganong every time recognition, nganong family day di ko maka-appeal sa games, nganong ingon ani nganong wala koy papa. Daghan kay kog mga what ifs niya, daghan kay kog mga pangutana nga di ko kaako pud og pangutana niya. Kay naa ko'y mga conclusions sa akong hunahuna nga mao siguro kay kuan di jud siguro ko nimo love ana, which is very wrong pod. Then mo to nga iyang gipakita day namo is tough love. It's her love language. Saksi sila Dr. Jazz kung unsa jud ang unsa ko before, lahi na kaayo, dako na kay kog progress ron. So mo to nga di siya ganahan nga makita namo siya nga weak siya kay ingon ana man jud ay nang inahan. Na-realize ra pud na nako sa katong inahan nako. Then mo to, now eager na kay ko at that point, eager na kay ko to win them again. I will do whatever it takes to win them again. Then while I'm inside the facility, I have so much realizations. Drug didn't do this to us. Addiction did. Mura ra gud kanang tambal bitaw like biogesic mga ingunana or mga antibiotic. Mao nang naa na sila yung mga resita kay di man ka pwede ma-overdose. Kani siya ang drugs gani illegal na gani siya, ibalik-balik pag yun nimo og gamit, wala na unsa nalay kuan nimo, di ba? So muna nga don't ever underestimate the power of addiction. Mapa drugs man, mapa meth man, mapa marijuana, ecstasy ug unsa pa na diha. Wa jud nay mabuhat nga ikaayo sa imong lawas. It will totally eat you alive. Kabantay ka nang buhi na ka pero gipatay na ka. Ingon ana jud imong kinabuhi. Now, that is what we have to overcome because there will always be drugs no matter what. Makita man siguro nato sa television, sa Facebook, tanan-tanan. There are some mga kuan pa gani sa super balita nga naay mga cases sa rape kay tungod under sa influence of drugs anang kanang tawhana na ay mangawat na ay manulis, then mo to nga even if kanang ang drugs gani mawala, if drugs were eradicated there would be something else feeding addiction, so we must deal with it and think beyond addiction. So I was discharged from the facility last August 19, 2020. So 6 months ko dito, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. And now I am 26 months sober and counting. It was really a tough ride and you know what? It's all worth it. Nagpasalamat na lang pud ko ganiha well naminaw ko ni Sir Jais, nakaingon ko nga maayo ra jud no na save ko. Kay pariha atong Elisa, pariha atong Tony nga na-share man tuod ang ilahang life story but a very tragic story. They didn't make it. Nya mo to nga naka-realize po ko nga why would I question God all of the shortcomings in my life when I was the one who chose it? God is always with us. He wanted us to be strong. He wants us to overcome the challenges of our lives and serves it as our lesson. So I got through it sober and clean, all thanks to my recovery and the staffs of CTRC. Friends and family and the aftercare program. And being in the aftercare program diha sa sulod sa CTRC kay after nimo mo gawas after magud nimo ma-discharge na 18 months ng aftercare where they will going to let you report sa facility to have some session, mga naay discussion, then i-drug test pud ka to see if ning gamit ba ka, ning slip ba ka, or ni relapse ba ka. So it's one of the main tools to get through tragedy. So while I'm writing this, while I'm reviewing this testimony, I'm sitting here today while I'm writing this in a bus because I'm about to fetch my daughter in school. So karon I can say I became a good mom already. I am a responsible mom with my 2 kids. Thankful kayo ko kay gihatagan kog higayon, gitagaan kog second chance. I considered myself nga kanang second chance na nina ko after na kong gawas sa rehab. May gani wala ko matukhang, wala ko madisgrasya or something, mapriso. Then ako I am very thankful, honored kaayo ko. It is really my pleasure to share this to you. Nangutana si Doc Jane if okay ra ba makita akong now while nag-share ko sa akong testimony. I said, okay ra man Doc. I guess this is my mission. Ipakita na ko ninyo nga dili pawahi ang tanan. Most of the cases, na ba yung mga cases po dro no, nga mga bata pa, like naara sa inyo ang age bracket bitaw. Nakuan po sila nalulung po sila sa drugs but they are afraid to seek help kay they are afraid of being judged. Mostly women kay lisod ra ba ang kuno nimo sa imong self nga I was into drugs or nakagamit ko and I need help. No, you don't need to be afraid, Jude. Don't be scared. Nadyo yung mga professional nga mga anda mutabang and then always find your best friend. Kung mahimo find your best friend inside sa imuhang family kay diha makita nimo kay sila ang kahibaw unsa jud imong unsay kaayuhan para nimo. Much better if makita na nimo ang imong best friend inside the family kay kanang dili gani ka maligaw ng landas. Then if you feel like parehas atong una experience na ko ganiha nga na ako'y mga misunderstanding sa ako ang mama, always talk to your mom, to your dad, to your brother, sister. Kay para at least ang imuhang conclusion nga basig sayop na mahatagan gani yung answer. Like always, communication is always the key, Jud. Kay if ang tendency man gud ana na kay mga conclusion kay syempre kita sa mga student pa ta diha pud ko sa una nga kasabaan ko sa akong mama sa akong mama ya kasabaan mo sa inyong papa mga ingon ana, but it's for our own good, Jud. Dili na to i-misinterpret. Then never ka nang kuan, Jud, never turn your pain into hatred. Never let your emotion control your intelligence. So, mora na siya ang akong ma-share jud ninyo, and hopefully naay lesson nga naamoy nakuha nga lesson diri sa akong gi-share ninyo. So, thank you kaayo. Thank you ninyong tanan.
Thank you so much for the wonderful sharing of your testimony, Ma'am Bea. And it is not wrong to ask for help, students. So each one of us offers a helping hand, especially in the guidance office. We offer like counseling or kana sa mga junior high school, elementary, all your levels, tertiary na inyong mga guidance counselors. You can ask them for help. It is only a matter of reaching out to that helping hand. Please ayaw mo ka-owaw to reach out to the guidance office, of course. We will now proceed with the Q&A portion. So students, you may turn on your microphone, or if you cannot turn on your microphone, you can use the chat box to type in your questions for our speakers, kang Ma'am Bea ba or kang Sir Jais. So our speakers are sure to answer your questions, so please do not be shy in asking. And also, an evaluation link will be sent sa ato ang guidance, will be sent by our GPS team to be answered by the students. So kindly answer the evaluation form. It will serve as a proof for attending this webinar and for receiving an e-certificate of participation. So students, you may proceed to ask questions for our speakers. Okay, so I think our students have no questions. Is this correct, ba, students of the USPF? We don't have any questions to our speakers na naka-learn ra bag maayo tanan in this webinar. And I think the heart-to-heart na mo ang way of sharing sa ato ang speaker, especially the testimony part. Yes, there are no questions. The heart-to-heart gid nila sir and ma'am ang inyong gitalk, especially about the drug awareness and mga experiences together with the story of Elisa and Tony. Niduot ni siya sa kasing-kasing sa to mga estudyante. So with no questions, and almost hapit na atong time and nilapas na kita sa oras. We will proceed with the awarding of the certificate. Okay na so far. So I think we will proceed with the awarding of the certificate to our speakers. So we will proceed with the awarding of the certificates to our speaker. Allow me to read the citations. So this certificate of appreciation is proudly presented to Mr. Venus Jais Campanilla II, MARP Sci, for sharing his time and expertise as a resource speaker during the virtual drug awareness lecture with the theme Sana All Wow ang Life Without Drugs, given this 19th day of October 2023. University of Southern Philippines Foundation, Salinas Drive, Lahog, Cebu City, signed and to be signed by our president, Attorney Paulino A. Yabao, VP for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ernesto L. Alolor, and of course, the Director of the Guidance and Testing Service Center, Dr. Elita L. Quipich, GC. For the certificate of appreciation is also proudly presented to Ms. Elena Beatriz Sabello Ramas for sharing her invaluable time as treatment advocate during the virtual drug awareness lecture with the theme Sana All Wow ang Life Without Drugs, given this 19th day of October 2022, University of Southern Philippines Foundation, Salinas Drive, Lahog, Cebu City. To be signed by our Director of the Guidance and Testing Service Center, Dr. Elita L. Qui, VP for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ernesto L. Alolor, and of course, the President of the University, Attorney Paulino Yabao. A certificate of appreciation is also proudly presented to the DOH TRC Cebu Committee on Advocacy and Education for the invaluable service and support they extended during the virtual drug awareness lecture with the theme Sana All Wow ang Life Without Drugs, given this 19th day of October 2022, University of Southern Philippines Foundation, Salinas Drive, Lahog, Cebu City, as signatories with our Director, Guidance and Testing Service Center, Dr. Elita L. Qui, Dr. Ernesto L. Alolor, the Vice President for Academic Affairs, and the University President, Attorney Paulino Yabao. And the last, okay, so I would also like to call Dr. Peralta, Dr. Jasmine Peralta, for the awarding of the certificate from the DOH to the Guidance Office.
Okay, go ahead. Please read the citation.
So this certificate of appreciation is proudly presented to the Guidance and Testing Service Center for the invaluable service and support extended during virtual drug awareness lecture with the theme Sana All Wow ang Life Without Drugs, given this 19th day of October 2022, University of Southern Philippines Foundation, Salinas Drive, Lahog, Cebu City, signed by Dr. Jane S. Giselle, Medical Officer 3, Chairman, Advocacy and Education Committee, DOH TRC, Cebu City, together with Dr. Jasmine T. Peralta, Chief of Hospital 2, DOH TRC of Cebu City. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much to the DOH for their speakers and of course the heartwarming insights that they gave to our USPF students. Now to end this program, I would like to leave a few quotes from, of course, Samuel L. Jackson as he was recovering in his struggle during his addiction. So he said, I understood through rehab things about creating characters. I understood that creating whole people means knowing where we were come from, how we can make a mistake, and how we can overcome things to make ourselves stronger. Students, I hope that you have learned something from today's webinar. But before we end, there will be a small announcement regarding to future activities. So there is an October 24, a plenary series for the Mental Health Awareness Week, Calming the Storm, Keep Your Mental Health in Check webinar for all students for October 25. We have Anxiety and Depression, Signs and Symptoms and Support webinar for the tertiary students. November for future purpose, there is also November 2022 for self-care, appreciation, and compassion, a webinar for the junior high school and senior high school. And this upcoming October 28, a self-care hub culminating activity at the AVR third floor of the WECO building. So there will be booths and competitions. So stay tuned to our FB page and of course to your SAS coordinators. So thank you all for listening in today's webinar. I am your host and moderator, Ms. Risa Pansoy. We will now end with our USPF
From all corners of the Philippines, we have come to be with you. Our quest for knowledge, our quest for truth, we bring to you for you to soothe. We sing to you, dear alma mater. We sing to you, we cheer for you. University of Southern Philippines, loyal sons and daughters ever will remain through thick and thin. Nothing shall this bond ever sever. University, alma mater dear, you will always be Southern to us, for merchant, lawyer, teacher, engineer. Knit the Southern skies will have no peace.
Once again, thank you for attending today's webinar on drug awareness and refusal skills with the theme Sana All Wow ang Life Without Drugs. Thank you, students. Kindly access the link for the program evaluation. Thank you so much to the Department of Health and Rehabilitation Center for granting us an honor as our speaker and of course for our testimonies. Thank you so much and have a happy lunch.